It all began in a harbor deep into the night. A group of men clad in black suits gathered there. Meanwhile, there is a particular man among them who was injured and had to rest his back on the wall. The name of the man is Park Kang-Tae. Park Kang-Tae was seen as he remarked about how much his wounds hurt him as he was having his cigarettes. One of the men then asked Park Kang-Tae to have some time to smoke his last cigarette. Park Kang-Tae immediately lit up his cigarettes and had some puffs. Meanwhile, one of the men asked the other to send Park Kang-Tae, whom he addressed as his brother, off easily in one shot. The man then apologized to Park Kang-Tae, who replied that he knew that the man was doing what he was instructed to do. Although Park Kang-Tae shrugged off the reply, he thought about the fact that his life had been full of despair and anger. However, he still felt attached to boxing, as it was everything to me. Park Kang-Tae had everything, such as height, punching power, and star quality. Back in high school, he was even called a promising prospect in the boxing world. Despite that, he could not ignore the provocations that came his way because he couldn't control his young blood. And he was told that he could never box again, and he was shut down. Also, there must have been other ways he might have been able to make a comeback, at least by making a living as a boxer. But he now realized that it's all useless to regret it. But then he could not stop thinking, hoping that if he had a chance, even just once, he really wanted to do boxing again. However, the next thing Park Kang-Tae was hearing as he slipped out of his consciousness was someone calling him Kalli and asking him to wake up. A blonde-haired young boy was seen lying down with blood in his mouth. All of a sudden, the boy opened his eyes and jolted up, to which he looked at his hands as he wondered why he was still alive. Meanwhile, the name of the boy is Kalli. A few days later, Kalli was seen as he assembled with other guys, to which a particular man addressed them as the losers of the match, asking them to go to the mine. He told them that if they want to stay and not go to the mine, they need to train very hard in this August boxing school. The man then began to assign the guys to their pairs by calling their names, to which he set Kalli and Slit as a boxing pair. He added that the pairs called will have a match in a week. All the guys present could realize the man's intention, which was that he wanted them to have a hard time by pairing the juniors with the seniors. However, Kalli knew that if he were to lose, he would be sent to the mine, and that would be hazardous to his health. The man, otherwise called Captain, informed Kalli that he had something to discuss in private, and that he had submitted his name to the owner for discharge. Kalli was surprisingly calm as he heard this. He knew that he had a small build and was not fit for boxing. The captain then recommended that he sell him to a different master. So, Kalli determined in his mind that he would become the boxer and informed the captain about his decision. The captain was surprised by this, as he knew that the previous Kalli was quite a crybaby. However, he agreed to Kalli's request. Kalli knew about his past life as Park Kang-Tae, who lived as a gangster, and now he had a new life as a boy called Kalli. Despite the weak and frail body he has a deep passion for boxing. During his thoughts, Kalli was interrupted, and he was bullied just like usual. But something different has changed about him as he withstood all the punches and stood his ground. At the time, a young man was observing Kalli, who suddenly dodged a particular punch made by Slit. Kalli was surprised as well, as he could now see the trajectory of the fists clearly and slowly, and he dodged it precisely and got the exact time Slit's guard was down, to which he made his own punch. But he still got dealt by Slit, to which he collapsed to the ground, and the bullies left him. However, Kalli began to laugh as he realized the secret behind boxing and decided that he would survive to win and not go to the mines. It was the rising revolt of the armored gladiators 20 years ago. It was a tough situation that even regular troops could hardly cope with. Meanwhile, the kingdom, which had barely suppressed the rebellion, later abolished the slave gladiator system, and due to this, fighters were born. And they began the fight of destroying an opponent with only their fists. This gives the audience pleasure, which is what Kalli found out about fighters in the New World. Kalli and other trainees were seen jogging in the morning. He was having quite a hard time keeping up with others as he was exhausted due to his frail body. However, he kept pushing on, as he was willing and determined to survive. He knew that in this place, it's only the strong that survive. After a while, the captain told them to stop, while he observed that Kalli's attitude had changed completely from his usual self. Even the other trainees observed this, and they wondered why Kalli would run with all his might after he was bullied. They thought that he might be behaving strangely due to his head getting hurt. So they informed the captain about that, and the captain began to have some thoughts about him, and decided to watch him longer. Meanwhile, they were later seen having the afternoon training, and Kalli could notice that everyone was trying their best not to get sent to the mine, where he began to work as hard as them. But then he realized that with his frail body, he couldn't do much damage to the opponent. So he began to think of hit points and weak places like the jaw that can do great damage, such as giving a shake to the skull. So he thought of finding a way to land a hit to the jaw. And that is when the instructor came over and asked him why he was not training like others. Kalli responded that he should be able to train in his own way as long as it's for boxing. But the instructor then said that he must be in accordance with the training left down. However, Kalli knew that the regular training wouldn't help his body, so the instructor told him to continue the regular training. But the captain interfered and said that Kalli can keep using his training style if it's from his father. Later, Kalli was seen to be so exhausted after the training. He was so hungry and wanted to eat something sweet. He was later seen eating an apple at the top of a tree, and a red-haired noble lady was seen as she approached him and got an apple. She realized that Kalli did not know her, so she introduced herself as Azalea Aegist, and that is her father, Baron Gadolf Aegist, who happened to be Kalli's master. So Azalea asked him to leave immediately so that he wouldn't be caught. He ate an apple in the noble's garden, for which he thanked her and left immediately. However, Azalea looked at his receding figure as she recalled his name. Kalli's training has changed a lot, as he's now attracting everyone's attention with his unheard-of training. He now allowed hitting, but it was considered that if it continues like that, that will eventually be the end. With the way Kalli's training was going, Solot wondered if there were not going to be instructors present at the training ground at that time. But someone already replied to him that the instructors were called by the master, and so they had to leave. Solot believed he should be the winner, so he made up his mind to show everyone that he was the true boss by showing Kalli who he really was. He began strategizing on how he was going to win against Kalli. He did that to the extent that he almost landed a hit on Kalli. But Kalli realized just in time, even though he was focused, that he did not notice Solot was next to him at that moment. Solot got embarrassed to the point when Kalli was able to hit, even with his body build, but he had to pretend like he was fine and like nothing really happened. As Kalli announced his intention to revert to his previous training routine, Solot found himself immersed in a flood of memories. Recollections of days past, when he shared the company of individuals similar to Kalli within the organization, flashed through his mind. These were the days when Solot, with an air of superiority, effortlessly subdued his peers. Lost in contemplation, Kalli, observing Solot's demeanor, interpreted it as worry. In an attempt to reassure his counterpart, Kalli encouraged Solot not to be concerned. Unfazed, Solot responded, asserting that worry was foreign to him. In fact, he considered himself fortunate to face a seemingly feeble opponent like Kalli in the sparring arena. The noticeable change in Kalli's behavior did not go unnoticed by those around him. In the recent past, Kalli has been a consistent source of irritation, often provoking others to the point where physical altercations were commonplace. However, a discernible shift in his demeanor indicated a newfound determination, a conscious effort to distance himself from the tumultuous patterns of his past. Torres, a keen observer of human dynamics within the group, took note of this transformation. Concerned about the apparent metamorphosis in Kalli, Torres felt compelled to issue a word of caution to Solot, a fellow member of their circle. Torres urged Solot not to let his guard down, advising against complacency in the face of what seemed to be a significant shift in Kalli's mindset. As Solot absorbed Torres's counsel, he couldn't help but reflect on the evolving dynamics within their group. The fact that Torres had taken the initiative to warn him hinted at a collective awareness among their peers regarding Kalli's altered approach to life. It was as though a silent consensus had formed, acknowledging the change in Kalli's trajectory. Solot's contemplation deepened, prompting him to revisit memories of their shared experiences within the organization. Recollections surfaced of times when Kalli and his former provocative self would inadvertently provoke others to physical confrontations. However, the present signaled a departure from that familiar narrative, and Solot found himself grappling with the implications of Kalli's apparent determination to break free from the patterns that once defined him. At Gadolf's mansion, there was a meeting ongoing concerning the preparations for the match. As the trainees had started living in the training facility, they took Torres into consideration, as he seemed to be a promising one, and Gadolf himself had already gotten interested in Torres, as he was said to have a good balance of strength and agility. Plus, he was aggressive and skilled as well. Since their training center's reputation had been declining, they had been struggling financially, and they had to send half of the slaves to the mines due to a lack of funds. So, Nixar was asked to invite the commoners as spectators and raise some money also, because the commoners must have missed watching the boxers fight too, as they would surely like it. Gadolf, having overseen the training center for a span of 15 years, encountered a dynamic journey marked by both success and adversity. In the initial quinquennium, he skillfully managed the center using the boxers passed down through generations, maintaining a legacy inherited from his ancestors. However, the subsequent decade presented a stark contrast, as Gadolf, driven by a perhaps misguided ambition, compelled the boxers into an excess of fights, resulting in their unfortunate demise. The repercussions of this approach were profound, leaving Gadolf with the somber task of sustaining his family through the income generated by the training center. Regrettably, even this proved insufficient, adding financial strain to Gadolf's already challenging circumstances. Against this backdrop, Azelia, Gadolf's daughter, emerged as an unexpected participant in the training activities. Despite initial discouragement, she expressed a burgeoning interest in the center. Her curiosity, however, was not rooted in a pre-existing passion for such pursuits, but rather in a desire to witness Kalli's performance. The training ground was abuzz with activity, and all eyes were fixed on the impending bout between Solot and Kalli. As the opponents for the day, they were summoned to face each other in the ring. Notably, among the participants ready for combat, Kalli stood out with a physique distinct from the conventionally muscular builds. This anomaly intrigued Azelia, prompting her to be present at the training ground. Her anticipation stemmed from a genuine curiosity about how Kalli, seemingly less physically imposing, would navigate the upcoming fight against opponents known for their robust builds. Within the martial arts community, there existed a prevailing notion that a fighter's prowess was intricately linked to their physique. Strength, often perceived as directly proportional to physicality, was considered a defining factor. Yet there was an undercurrent of belief that prowess transcended mere physicality, challenging the conventional perspective. As the participants prepared for the impending duel, the contrasting physical appearances among them fueled speculation. People contemplated the potential strategies Kalli might employ to compensate for what seemed like a disadvantage in sheer strength. Azelia, among the intrigued spectators, couldn't help but ponder the unfolding dynamics and the unspoken challenge that Kalli's less imposing stature presented. At the onset of the bout, Solot, perhaps sensing the unconventional challenge Kalli presented, urged him to concede, emphasizing the slim chances of victory and the potential toll on his health. Solot attempted to dissuade Kalli, asserting that the aftermath of the fight might leave him in less than optimal condition. In response, Kalli, unfazed by Solot's attempts to undermine his confidence, countered by advising Solot to focus on the impending battle, rather than engaging in excessive boasts. As the clash commenced, Kalli strategically assessed his opponent, identifying potential weaknesses that could tip the scales in his favor. Recognizing the need to manipulate Solot's posture, Kalli aimed to force his upper body to bend, a critical step in his calculated approach to securing victory. However, amidst the tactical maneuvers, Kalli found himself provoked by the spectators, injecting an element of external distraction that threatened to compromise his stamina. In a shrewd move, Kalli deliberately allowed Solot to maintain an offensive stance, keeping him engaged in relentless attacks. This tactical decision served a dual purpose. Not only did it provide Kalli with moments of respite, allowing him to recover stamina more efficiently, but it also exploited Solot's dwindling energy reserves as he relentlessly pressed on with his assaults. The second plan Kalli had was that when Solot lost his guard, he would hit his jaw. But unfortunately, things did not go as planned for him because he wondered how Solot was still able to hit him when he was already tired. And due to what happened, spectators started hailing Solot since he was the one they believed right from the start. Meanwhile, it was only Kalli who knew Solot cheated because he grabbed him with all his fingers and not his gloves, and he never adds that to his strategy. People had to ask if Kalli would be able to continue the fight, or if he would give up because of the way things were going. Kalli was never going to give up since he had already died, and he must try his best to survive right then. Since it had all turned out that way, Kalli did his best to do everything in his capacity. And of course, Solot was surprised because he eventually got a chance to attack Solot. Before Solot could know it, Kalli kept on punching him, even though he could not feel the hit. But as time went on with the consistent punches, he felt weak, and he collapsed to the extent that he could not stand up until time was up. And fortunately for Kalli, he was announced as the winner. And everyone was shocked, wondering how it was possible for a skinny guy like Kalli to have won the fight. That was pretty much how Kalli's second life did not go in vain. A week later, the slave traders came, and half of the apprentices were sent to the mine. However, the only exception among the inferior students was Kalli, because right then, there were only a little over 10 people left on the training ground, and the training center was quiet. Back at the August mansion, Kalli was seen being told that the shackles would be released when he returned to the training center. It was his first time in the mansion, though, and Azealia had already called for him. But he wondered why he was being called, and he was told that Azela might have seemed interested in him after the last match. Nixar then took Kalli to see Azealia, and the way Azealia was talking to Kalli in front of Nixar, he did not want to get suspected, so he acted innocent. And Azealia got the message as she asked Nixar to excuse them. And when Nixar left, Azealia greeted Kalli once again. Meanwhile, she actually called him because she wanted to ask him something. But she first complimented his acts during the last fight, and she also told him about what her father said after the fight, that Kalli was only able to win due to luck. And Kalli replied that he only shook his head because he considered that if one hit the chin accurately with his fist, the head would shake, and then the person would lose control of his body temporarily, and that only applies when the impact is enough. When Azealia heard all of that, she encouraged Kalli the most to keep winning and become a professional boxer, because if he could become a champion, he might also become a free person. It was afternoon training time, and Kalli's goal still remained that he would definitely achieve freedom one day. Meanwhile, Nixar already had a vision for Torres that he would become strong, because that was part of the reason why he had brought him from being a farmhand, since he only has a natural physique and fighting spirit. So he urged him to work hard to become a champion and a free person. Everyone thought that Kalli did his activities without a goal before, but their mindset towards him changed when he beat Solot and survived. Due to the fact that they got jealous of Kalli, they thought of teaching him a lesson because Solot had to go to the mine just because of him. So Kijo ganged up with Torres for them to be able to beat Kalli up. Kalli actually got hurt during the last match, but now his ribs are completely healed, and he started exercising around the time he recovered and gained some muscle as well. Kijo walked up to him, telling him about the challenges he wanted them to have, but Kalli did not agree with him, as he did not want Kijo to get hurt. The way Kalli said it really got Kijo angry, and he thought that Kalli had belittled him. So he attacked Kalli with immediate effect, and Kalli knew that Kijo mainly took that bold step because he might have thought that he won the fight with Solot through luck. But it was not like that. And Kalli himself had to fight Kijo back since he was the one who attacked first. That was how they both started fighting. Kijo, towering in height with an overwhelming reach reminiscent of facing a spear, possessed a formidable advantage in the one-on-one duel against Kalli. His long jab created a defensive barrier, making any approach seem insurmountable, However, Kicho's Achilles heel lay in his large movements and bent swings, rendering him vulnerable, akin to a substantial punching bag. This paradox embodied Kicho's fighting style. In the face of this advantage, Kalli seized an opportune moment and launched a relentless assault on Kijo, exploiting the vulnerabilities presented by his distinctive fighting stance. However, as Kijo succumbed to Kalli's attacks, other apprentices, witnessing the situation, intervened with the intention of overwhelming Kalli through sheer numerical advantage. Despite the odds stacked against him, Kalli displayed nimble footwork, evading the initial onslaught from the intervening apprentices. Kijo, acknowledging the circumstantial nature of Kalli's success, conveyed a sense of defiance, asserting that his defeat was merely a consequence of the numerical disadvantage. As the skirmish escalated, with multiple opponents converging on Kalli, he found himself on the receiving end of a barrage of blows, echoing memories of past mistreatment and victimization. The situation mirrored Kalli's experiences in his previous life, highlighting the cyclical nature of bullying. In a timely intervention, Torres, a figure of authority, emerged on the scene. With a commanding presence, he halted the apprentices' collective assault on Kalli. Torres, in a gesture of wisdom and fairness, emphasized the significance of a one-on-one fight, denouncing the attempt to overpower Kalli through numerical superiority as a display of foolishness. Kijo asked Torres why he was on Kalli's side, but Torres replied that he was not on anybody's side, but he was just annoyed by the experience of being beaten by Kalli and was still acting up. But Kijo objected, explaining that he was not beaten, but that he just let his guard down for a moment. On hearing this, Torres told Kijo to have a one-on-one fight again with Kalli, as he had volunteered to be the referee. In a one-on-one duel between Kalli and Kijo, Kalli strategically harnessed every advantage at his disposal, resulting in a decisive victory. He skillfully utilized his strengths to beat and knock down Kijo, showcasing a level of proficiency that caught the attention of Torres. The seasoned mentor, observing Kalli's prowess, speculated that Kalli might possess innate talent, given his lineage as the son of a champion. Curious about Torres' unexpected support, Kalli sought an explanation. However, Torres, choosing to remain enigmatic, offered no verbal response. He left the scene, leaving Kalli to contemplate the unspoken motivations behind his intervention. Following this incident, a notable shift occurred in the dynamics within the group. The overt hostility and bullying that Kalli had previously endured ceased abruptly. The implicit acknowledgement of Kalli's skills by his peers marked a subtle yet profound transformation. No longer subjected to blatant bullying, Kalli found himself integrated into the community of boxing apprentices, gaining a level of acceptance that had eluded him before. In the guest reception room of the August mansion, Nixar, the instructor, received unexpected instructions to proceed with a match despite earlier discussions to decline. Seeking guidance from his master, Nixar explained that their side comprised only apprentice boxers. However, his master, undeterred, revealed that their sworn opponent, Doraemon, had not brought any proficient boxers, creating an opportunity for victory. In light of this revelation, the instructor proposed two options: either field the best members and earnestly compete, or strategically use a less formidable participant as a sacrificial lamb for the upcoming round. However, the master, motivated more by a desire to mock and provoke Doraemon than a calculated strategy, insisted on bringing forth the three best contenders. The instructor, contemplating the potential consequences of risking an ace like Torres, recognized the significance of the impending match for the training center's survival. With only 3 days remaining, the urgency of the situation became apparent, necessitating intense training and preparation for Torres, the linchpin of their strategy. The master's focus on psychological tactics, intending to provoke a reaction from Doraemon, added a layer of complexity to the instructor's dilemma. While victory was desired, the master seemed equally interested in gauging the emotional response of their opponent. This dual objective underscored the strategic considerations involved in the upcoming match, transforming it into more than a mere physical contest. In a decisive turn of events, the instructor summoned Torres, Kijo, and Kalli, revealing his decision to train them for an imminent match against the formidable Doraemon training camp scheduled in just 3 days. The instructor conveyed that the trio had been chosen due to their reputation as the best contenders in the training center. Seeking reassurance, Torres inquired about the certainty of their victory. However, the instructor candidly acknowledged that their chances were slim. This revelation cast a shadow over Kijo, who, upon hearing the news, became visibly apprehensive, fearing dire consequences in the event of a loss. In response to Kicho's concerns, they were assured that their lives were not at stake, as they were considered the master's property. Nevertheless, a stark warning followed. While their lives might be spared, the high probability of sustaining broken bones at the hands of their opponents remained. The instructor told Torres to try sparring with the other instructors repeatedly, since he had to gain more experience in 3 days, and Kijo should find a way to handle his fear and train his mentality. But there was nothing prepared for Kalli, since he was chosen based on his recent appearance, and he was asked to ask anything he would need for the training. The training session began, and Torres was told not to hold back. It was explained to him that he had to make his opponent feel that he's an immortal human being. After a while, the training was stopped, and Torres could see Kalli in the field, which made him wonder what he was doing there. Kalli told Valkyrie, who was a laborer, to throw some stones at him, and Kalli began to dodge them. This was called hit or miss, which was one of the keys to modern boxing. Kalli could understand that he could not grow his muscles in 3 days, and this propelled him to train his reflexes, which served as an important skill. After a while, he stopped the training. As night fell, there was sudden noise as Valky was with a knife, as he claimed not to forgive Doraemon, and it was later known that the fighter from Doraemon training camp came by and beat up everyone mercilessly because they were angry about the match. But there were no injuries. Suddenly, the instructor came in and saw Valky shouting and wanting to kill Doraemon, but he was slapped and told to become someone stronger than the fighters, since it was evident that they lost. This was when Kalli came to realize that after training and living with them all, he had a bond between them, and starting from the moment, the fight wouldn't only be an event for the citizens but also a fight for Gadolf's pride, but a battle between 2 training camps. 3 days later, the August Estate Arena bustled with anticipation as spectators filled the stands. Kalli, Kijo, and Torres, gearing up for the impending match against the formidable Doraemon training camp, were given herbal tea designed to relax and energize them. The instructor, recognizing the magnitude of the challenge, offered a pragmatic piece of advice, instructing them to raise 2 fingers high if they believed defeat was imminent, a gesture that prioritized preserving their pride over potential physical harm. As fate would have it, Kijo was chosen to be the first to enter the arena. Before his bout, Kalli, in a last-minute plea, advised Kijo to keep the opponent at a distance. However, Kijo, seemingly dismissive of the counsel, proceeded to face his adversary. Kicho's opponent, Bas, a warrior with an impressive record of 14 wins from the Doraemon Training Center, engaged in verbal sparring with Kijo on the stage. Bas, dismissing the notion that long limbs equated to strength, attempted to rattle Kicho's confidence. Unfortunately, Kijo, overcome by fear, found himself unable to respond or make any decisive movements. As the fight officially commenced, Kijo, paralyzed by fear, was rushed by his opponent. Unable to leverage his skills and advantages, Kijo struggled to mount a defense. The initial moments of the bout painted a challenging picture for Kijo as the crowd watched in suspense, witnessing the unfolding drama in the arena. After falling to the ground, Kijo faced the countdown, acutely aware that losing without throwing a punch could result in his expulsion from the training center. Drawing on the lessons learned from a previous defeat at the hands of Kalli, Kijo sought composure and recalled the instructor's guidance. Recognizing Kicho's distinctive physical attributes, height and long limbs, the instructor had emphasized the importance of maintaining distance from opponents. This insight became a pivotal factor in Kicho's strategy. Summoning courage, Kijo steeled himself against Bas's advances, determined not to let his opponent get too close. As Bas charged forward, Kijo, in a surprising turn of events, landed a punch squarely on Bas's nose. The unexpected success resonated not only with the spectators, but also with Kijo himself, who found a renewed sense of confidence in his ability to execute effective counterattacks. The arena, initially hushed in surprise, erupted into a mixture of cheers and gasps at the unforeseen twist in the match. As the fight unfolded, Kijo's strategic approach continued to thwart his opponent's attempts to close in. His flexibility and agility, coupled with a deliberate reduction of unnecessary muscle tension, rendered Kijo's attacks more potent and unpredictable than ever. Boss, unable to find a viable angle of attack, struggled to navigate Kijo's defenses. In a calculated move, Bass aimed for a high angle, hoping to exploit a potential vulnerability. However, Kijo, demonstrating remarkable reflexes, skillfully dodged the incoming strike and swiftly retaliated with a punch to Bass's face. The impact sent Bass sprawling helplessly to the ground. To Kijo's surprise and elation, he emerged victorious. From a distance, he glanced at the instructor and proudly declared himself the winner. The joy extended beyond Kijo, resonating with Gadolf, who celebrated the triumph. However, the revelry was short-lived as Dora, the opposing figure, revealed that they still had 2 more seasoned fighters in their ranks. Upon hearing this revelation, Gadolf, recognizing the escalating stakes, dispatched Valkyrin with a dire message to Nixar. The message conveyed a stark ultimatum. The consequence of losing the upcoming fights was not merely defeat, but potentially a matter of life and death. The mention of death or forced labor in the mines heightened the intensity of the impending battles, casting a shadow over the training center's quest for victory against the Doraemon training camp. Valkyrin dutifully delivered the ominous message to Nixar, emphasizing the severity of the consequences should the fighters fail to secure victory. However, in a bid to quell potential fear among the combatants, Valkyrin suggested that Gadolf's current state of inebriation might cloud his judgment, leaving room for persuasion later. This implied that surrendering immediately when in danger could be an option. Despite the apparent uncertainty, Teros, undeterred, expressed unwavering confidence in his ability to win. Kalli keenly observed that Torres radiated determination and a steadfast spirit, seemingly undaunted by the impending challenge. However, Teros' opponent Mulga elevated the stakes by adopting a different approach than Barth. Mulga sought to intimidate Teros, warning him to surrender if he wished to avoid injury. Claiming to be on a different level than Barth, Mulga attempted to instill fear in his opponent. However, Teros, focused and resolute, dismissed Mulga's attempts to rattle him. Urging Mulga to forego words and initiate the fight, Teros demonstrated his readiness to face the formidable opponent head-on. As the fight started, Teros and Mulga engaged in a fierce and aggressive fight as they hit each other hard on the face. Torres, with the help of the training he had received, was able to act like he was the winner, even if he was going to fall down. And Mulga commented that it looked like Torres had been used to dealing with other active fighters, but he promised not to let him win. Torres could notice Mulga was making use of his elbow, which was considered cheating, but he was told that it was an accident that often happens during matches, and he could see how things were going to be. Mulga could remember that 18 fighters collapsed into his hands, even though he failed to become an A-class fighter. He was still proud to be a veteran, but he was surprised that Torres wouldn't go down even though he was an apprentice fighter. The audience cheered as Torres was compared to a wild boar. Kalli could also see how strong Torres was, even though he had been barbaric, and the level was different. Torres had the opportunity to fight Mulga and defeat him, and he was acknowledged by the instructor since he was able to meet the audience's expectations. Kalli came around to congratulate Torres on his match, and he was told by Torres that their victory is now based on his performance. As Kalli heard this, he was determined to end it and come back. Kalli and Burrito were to have a fight, but due to Kalli's size and height, the audience discriminated that he would not win, claiming their kids at home are way bigger than he was. Valkyrin was asked if he knew Kalli since he made a "let's win this" remark, and he claimed to and explained that it was because he helped him during training, as he asked Valkyrin to throw pebbles at him while he avoided them. Gadolf was happy since he had the assurance that he would win. Burrito told Kalli that he would never let him win. But before he knew it, Kalli was really close to him. And with this, he could see that Kalli was faster than he expected, which he considered to be a dangerous situation. Burrito was able to block all of Kalli's movements, and Kalli noticed that he was about to be cornered, and he knew the implications and the end of that. Kalli decided to escape being cornered no matter what, and as he threw punches, it was considered weak, but the audience kept on shouting at Burrito to fight properly since his opponent was weak. Kalli told Burrito to use his fist properly if he would not let him win, and Burrito could see that Kalli was using the audience even though he had no idea what he was after, but he planned to crush him down. As Burrito was trying to punch Kalli, he was skilled enough to dodge, and this was a surprise to Burrito and the audience. Dorman was getting angry as he could see that Burrito could not land a punch on Kalli, and Kalli could be seen to be different from the other apprentice fighter. Engaged in an intense battle with the seasoned boxer, Kalli adopted a strategic approach, keenly analyzing his opponent's moves to discern patterns. Recognizing that he lacked the advantage in terms of physical strength, Kalli focused on a defensive strategy, skillfully dodging each incoming attack. Aware that his key to success lay in precise timing, Kalli remained vigilant, patiently waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Continuously analyzing his opponent's patterns and movements, Kalli honed in on the intricacies of the fight. His sharp observational skills enabled him to anticipate the opponent's actions, allowing him to navigate the intense exchange with calculated precision. In a decisive move, Kalli seized the perfect moment, capitalizing on his opponent's vulnerability. With a well-timed strike, he countered the relentless assault, showcasing not only his defensive prowess, but also his ability to exploit openings in his opponent's offense. Confident in his experience and heightened body awareness, Kalli believed that these attributes would pave the way for victory. To the astonishment of spectators and onlookers, Kalli successfully landed an unexpected attack on Jim. The swift and precise strike resulted in Jim quickly suffering a nosebleed, with his knees hitting the ground as he grappled to comprehend how Kalli managed to connect with such force. In the aftermath of the unexpected blow, Kalli harbored the hope that Jim would remain grounded, recognizing that he could no longer effectively use his right hand. However, defying expectations, Jim rose to his feet, fueled by a mixture of rage and determination in response to Kalli's audacious move. The charged atmosphere in the arena intensified as Jim, incensed by Kalli's successful attack, surged forward in a retaliatory charge. Meanwhile, Kalli kept his cool at this moment, as the analysis was already done, and that is, Jim always starts with the right jab, which Kalli exploited and was able to deliver a heavy and fatal blow that knocked Jim out cold. Kalli cried out in pure joy. Azalea, Nickstar, and others were also surprised and pleased as they discovered that Kalli was able to win this match. Meanwhile, Baron Doraemon immediately left, as his pride had fallen, while Gadolf was so pleased that he gave them 3 whole pigs as rewards. 2 months later, the harvest season came, and Kalli and others were seen as helping in the harvest as well, even though they are fighters, and he sees it as training for himself. Kalli's body has undergone many changes, and he was even rewarded by the farmers with some crops for a job well done. Meanwhile, the farmers then asked him and others if they were going to the harvest festival of Duke Westley, to which they responded that they were still apprentices, and they had to wait another year to go. Kalli then asked the other guy about what they were going to do at the festival, who then explained that the highlight of the festival is boxing, and their master is one of the Duke's relatives. Also, Baron Doraemon and Auguste are competing under the Duke's sponsorship, and Doraemon seems to have the upper hand. Meanwhile, at Auguste's mansion reception room, Nickstar was seen pleading with his master to give him 1 more year, saying that the last match was well prepared and that he was lucky. However, his master told him that a letter came from the Duke's house, meaning that they had learned about them winning the last match. So, Duke Westley wants to see the 3 apprentices, and if he refuses, it will be reckless, which Nickstar understood as well. So they decided to depart for the Duke's house with an escort the day after tomorrow, and the 3 apprentices are now official boxers and should be stamped with a mark. Meanwhile, Kalli was seen being branded with a mark as well, and they all headed to the Duke's place, and Azalea also came along, riding the carriage. She complimented Kalli, saying that he had really changed a lot, and that he was the reason why she could walk with the other nobles, so she told him to show results from the training at the Harvest Festival. Later in the night, they were seen as having decided to take a break, and that they would be early the next morning. However, it was highly likely that since it was harvest time, the bandits might attack them. And it surprisingly happened that the bandits attacked them, and the knights tried to protect the Baron while Nixar protected Kalli and others. However, the bandits are too many, so Kalli asked Nixar to unlock their chains so that they could fight as well. Nixar thought for a while before he unchained them, and asked them to only subdue those that approached them, because protecting the Baron and Azalea was the top priority. However, Kalli saw that Galdolf was safe as he was protected by the knights, while Azalea was still in the carriage and a bandit was approaching it. So he decided to distract the bandit, who in turn attacked him. And then, going ahead to open the door, Kalli could only yell out Azalea's name, fearing the worst. The one-eyed bandit seized Azalea and hastily fled, prompting an immediate pursuit from Kalli. The chase reached a climax as the bandit found himself cornered at a dead end. In a tense standoff, the bandit unsheathed a sword, confronting Kalli and suggesting that he could join their ranks since he was deemed a slave. Puzzled by the bandit's contradictory actions, recruitment accompanied by the threat of a drawn sword, Kalli questioned the bandit's motives. He expressed skepticism, warning that joining such a group would likely lead him down the path of a mere bandit. Undeterred, the bandit, armed with a sword, initiated a charge toward Kalli. His skillful and aggressive approach hinted at a gladiator's prowess, with a formidable record of 42 consecutive wins. Surprised by the revelation of the one-eyed bandit's gladiatorial expertise, Kalli realized that confronting such a skilled opponent head-on was not a viable option. Swiftly evading the bandit's charge, Kalli prioritized the safety of Azalea. He managed to retrieve her unconscious form and swiftly retreated, opting to avoid unnecessary combat. Seeking refuge in a cave, Kalli and Azalea found a temporary haven. Azalea eventually regained consciousness, and Kalli provided her with a recap of the harrowing encounter with the one-eyed bandit. However, the chilly night presented a new challenge. Kalli, unable to light a fire due to the moist trees, faced the dilemma of combating the cold. Azalea, shivering in her wet clothes, took the practical step of removing them to alleviate the cold. Despite this, the frigid conditions persisted. In a moment of shared vulnerability and necessity, Kalli suggested they huddle together to increase their body temperature. Embracing this impromptu measure, they sought warmth in each other's presence and managed to endure the cold night. Discussing their next course of action, Kalli suggested heading upstream, expressing the hope that they might reconnect with their group. However, the journey held an element of uncertainty, especially if they encountered the bandits. Despite the potential risks, they decided to leave it to luck, recognizing the unpredictable nature of their circumstances. Azalea, comforted by Kalli's presence, felt a sense of ease amid the challenges they faced. With a renewed sense of purpose, they continued their journey, navigating the unknown terrain together. The one-eyed bandit was seen as he sat atop a bunch of beaten soldiers and swore that whenever he saw Kalli, he would deal with him. Shortly after, Kalli and Azalea were seen as they were passing through the part of the forest. The bandit was excited to see them and saw this as a heaven-like opportunity, to which he brought out his sword and went out to meet the duo, and claimed that he would deal with Kalli and take Azalea away. However, even without a weapon, Kalli still stood his ground and managed to narrowly dodge all the fatal attacks made by the bandit. After a while of dodging the attacks, Kalli got kicked in the stomach and the bandit seized the moment to attack with his sword, but Kalli was able to dodge it, thanks to Azalea's timely warning. He analyzed the attacks and realized that the only way to win with his bare hands was by moving forward, and due to that, he was able to deliver a blow to the bandit, who also attacked Kalli at the same time. This is when Kalli knew that he needed to have the courage to face the blade, so he was able to aim for the bandit's blind spot and deliver a blow to the jaw, which made the bandit spurt out blood, and Kalli used the force to deliver punches after punches on the bandit's face, thoroughly injuring the bandit's face. Meanwhile, Kalli was so exhausted by the fight, but the bandit was full of hatred, claiming that he would definitely kill Kalli. However, Azalea then took the bandit's sword and stabbed him, claiming that the bandit had disgraced her. Meanwhile, Kalli was shocked by what Azalea did and realized that this young lady is not normal. After dealing with bandits, Kalli and Azalea were seen as they were found by the rescue team, and they returned to others. Galdolf then thanked Kalli for saving his daughter, who then responded that it was his duty to do that. However, Galdolf asked Kalli to take a rest, as he truly deserved it. Meanwhile, he was angry at the soldiers for being useless instead. Meanwhile, they all wondered how Kalli was able to defeat a gladiator, who then replied that he had always been underestimated due to his weak and small body. Kalli and the other slave were being taken into the carriage, and they finally arrived at the Westley Duchy. Duke Westley was seen as he welcomed Galdolf, saying that they had traveled a long way. Also, he noticed Azalea Aim, who greeted him respectfully. However, Kalli had already been instructed by Azalea that he would serve as a servant to her, and that he has the most appropriate body fit to serve as a replacement, since the former servant is sick. Later in the dining room, Duke Westley was seen as he praised Gandalf's training center for having good apprentices who won the matches at the Harvest Festival, to which Galdolf responded that the apprentices had become official boxers. Not long after, Azalea talked to his father and then asked Kalli to follow her as she left, and took a stroll around with Kalli, as she felt quite frustrated just by staying for her. Meanwhile, Kalli noticed that Azalea was unhappy, which means her father was obsessed with finding her a husband. Kalli, however, could not relate to that. Azalea then bought candy and gave him one, saying that Kalli had never tasted the candy. Also, Kalli noticed that many people are looking at Azalea too much simply because she is the cutest girl. Meanwhile, a particular old woman was seen as she approached Azalea and asked if she was interested in fortune-telling. So Kalli had no choice but to follow the woman to her tent. The old woman was then seen as she began her performance, and began by saying that Azalea's life is not sailing smoothly, and there will be many twists and turns. The woman also added that Azalea's partner might be close by, but she would not have the love that everyone blesses. Also, the woman added that she can search Kalli's fortune, which Kalli does not want to do, but Azalea insisted that he should allow it since it's free. The woman then revealed that Kalli came from a very faraway place, and that it is beyond what the people here know about. The woman then began to describe as she saw the vision, and Kalli was surprised as to what the woman meant.